Coming up on 5 Minute News. Supreme Court halts census in latest twist of 2020 count. Barrett bats away tough Democratic confirmation probing. And Europe tightens rules as virus surges. It's Wednesday, October 14. I'm Anthony Davis. The Supreme Court on Tuesday ruled that the Trump administration can end census field operations early, batting aside a lawsuit that warned the truncated schedule will lead to minorities being undercounted in the crucial once-a-decade headcount. Still, the decision was not a total loss for the plaintiffs, who managed to get 2 extra weeks of counting people as the case challenging the U.S. Census Bureau's decision to end the census in September made its way through the courts. The Supreme Court Justice's ruling came as the nation's largest statistical association, and even the Bureau's own census takers and partners, have been raising questions about the quality of the data being gathered, numbers that are used to determine how much federal funding is allotted to states and localities, and how many congressional seats each state gets. Associate Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented, saying respondents will suffer substantial injury if the Bureau is permitted to sacrifice accuracy for expediency. Donald Trump's administration had asked the nation's High Court to suspend a lower court's order allowing the 2020 census to continue through the end of October. The Trump administration argued that the headcount needed to end immediately to give the Bureau time to crunch the numbers to meet a year-end deadline. Congress requires the Bureau to turn in by December 31st the figures used to decide the state's congressional seats, a process known as apportionment. By sticking to the deadline, the Trump administration would end up controlling the numbers used for the apportionment, no matter who wins next month's presidential election. Besides deciding how many congressional seats each state gets, the census helps determine how $1.5 trillion in federal funding is distributed each year. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett batted away Democrats' skeptical questions yesterday on abortion, health care, and a possible disputed election fight over transferring presidential power, insisting in a long and lively confirmation hearing she would bring no personal agenda to the court but decide cases as they come. The 48-year-old appellate court judge declared her conservative views with often colloquial language, but refused many specifics. She declined to say whether she would recuse herself from any election-related cases involving Donald Trump, who nominated her to fill the seat of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and is pressing to have her confirmed before the election. Barrett was grilled by Democrats strongly opposed to Trump's nominee, yet unable to stop her. Excited by the prospect of a conservative judge aligned with the late Antonin Scalia, Trump's Republican allies are rushing ahead to install a 6-3 conservative court majority for years to come. Trump has said he wants a justice seated for any disputes arising from his heated election with Democrat Joe Biden, but Barrett testified she has not spoken to Trump or his team about election cases. Pressed by panel Democrats, she skipped past questions about ensuring the date of the election or preventing voter intimidation, both set in federal law, and the peaceful transfer of presidential power. She declined to commit to recusing herself from any post-election cases without first consulting the other justices. Senators probed her views on gun ownership, gay marriage, and racial equality. Governments across Europe are ratcheting up restrictions to try to beat back a resurgence of the coronavirus that has sent new confirmed infections on the continent to their highest weekly level since the start of the pandemic. The World Health Organization said yesterday there were more than 700,000 new COVID-19 cases reported in Europe last week, a jump of 34% from the previous week. Britain, France, Russia and Spain accounted for more than half of the new infections. The increasing caseload is partly the result of more testing, but the UN Health Agency noted that deaths were also up 16% last week from the week before. Doctors are warning that while many of the new cases are in younger people who tend to have milder symptoms, the virus could again start spreading widely among older people, resulting in more serious illnesses. Italy and France are restricting parties and putting limits on restaurants and bars. The Netherlands went further and ordered the closing of all bars and restaurants, and to discourage partying at home, it banned the sale of alcohol after 8 p.m. And Britain unveiled a 3-tiered system for deciding what restrictions to impose based on how severe the outbreak is in certain areas. Those moves reflect a new approach to containing the virus among governments wary of hurting already fragile economies. Officials are eager to avoid the total lockdowns they imposed in the spring that resulted in heavy job losses. Instead, they're relying on a patchwork of regional or targeted restrictions that have sometimes caused confusion and frustration by those affected. The UN Health Agency appeared to support the new approach, saying lockdowns should be a last resort. German Chancellor Angela Merkel told a European Union advisory body yesterday that she is watching the rising infection figures with great concern. In an effort to keep people and goods moving throughout the European Union, member countries approved a colour-coded system. The countries agreed not to restrict people travelling between green areas, where infection numbers are low. But EU governments will continue to set their own restrictions, such as quarantines or mandatory testing upon arrival, for people coming from orange or red zones. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Please subscribe, rate and review us at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an independent production covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering unbiased, verified and truthful world news daily.